I have to say that I think that in Indiana, Kasich voters are going to be more likely to back Trump than Cruz. I was just thinking about that. The reason is that it's a socially conservative state anyways, so Cruz has Kasich dominated. If you're voting for Kasich, it's because you consider yourself a moderate. Trump is more moderate than Cruz, so you'd think they'd rank him as their second choice. It's kind of the flip of the Northeast overall, but the same logic as it applies to Kasich voters. Cruz finished in third place in 4 out of 5 states tonight. Let's realize that. He got completely trounced. He didn't have a chance. Kasich voters clearly didn't see the prospect of rallying behind Cruz to be very appealing. That's not some collapse in logic. It's not like they couldn't figure it out, right? It's actually simply because they broadly ranked Cruz behind Trump in terms of preference. So they're not going to vote for Cruz to stop Trump if they prefer Trump to Cruz. They're just going to shrug and vote for Kasich. The idea is that they would have been voting for Cruz in the first place, right? In Indiana, Cruz should probably want Kasich to pull those voters away from Trump, so removing Kasich is actually probably going to hurt him. If they were going to vote for Cruz to stop Trump for some other reason, they would have voted for him in the first place. Meaning that removing Kasich doesn't help Cruz, because anybody that was going to vote for Cruz would have already voted for Cruz anyways. I mean, at this point, there's, no late stragglers. It's pretty clear what the options are. And if you're making the choice to vote for Kasich in a race that you know was between Cruz and Trump, what you're saying is that they both suck. But the big thing is it's because Trump is the front runner, right? If Cruz was the front runner, then the logic would flip. But because Trump is the front runner, the movement is to stop Trump, right? So if you had some imperative to stop Trump, you would vote for Cruz. But if you had some imperative to, go with the flow, then you would vote for Trump. The Kasich voters they have to be voting on their ideological preferences. They have to be, removing themselves from all of the groupthink and media memes and everything and saying, okay, this is what I actually think. And what you're going to find out with Kasich voters in Indiana is going to be the same as everywhere else, is that Kasich voters tend to be higher income and more educated. So that makes sense, right? They have the ability to think for themselves. I went over this once before. You don't vote for the third party at this point, unless you're doing your own thinking. So this entire narrative that the Cruz team is trying to create, where it's I'm the only one that can stop Cruz, so I'm the only one that can stop Trump, is not going to resonate with Kasich voters. If it was going to resonate with them, they would have already moved to one side or the other, right? And when you look at Cruz, when you look at his tax policies, for example, they're ridiculous, right? So it's just not actually going to work out for him, right? And it's obvious that it's not going to work out for him. So it's just more evidence that Cruz and his team are just absolutely fucking idiots, okay? It's this ultra-competitive mindset that blinds them to any kind of cooperative strategy. They're utility monsters. It's the consequence of unrestrained egoism, selflessness as a virtue. Predictable, really. Yes. He should have pulled back in the Northeast to give Kasich a better chance. And don't say that was unpredictable. It was absolutely obvious from weeks out. I pointed it out, okay? But he doesn't want Kasich to drop out of the Midwest because he's splitting the moderates. If you want to call them moderates, they're crazies, but they call themselves moderates, and actually helping them. And there's a article here from a few days later at Bloomberg that's talking about how Kasich voters are pissed off at the situation and deciding that they're going to vote for Trump instead.